Have you ever stayed up at night wondering how you would cut a bridle joint like this? Well, I'm going to show you. Stick around. Welcome to the shop. It's a beautiful night here in Canterbury, New Hampshire, and it's especially special because tonight's topic is witnessed by a live studio audience. A little above tepid, I'll give that. No, I'm just kidding. No, but we're thrilled to have a group here this week where we've been making a demi-lune table project. Actually, this is one of the parts, or a sample part, of what the apron is like. So it presents an interesting challenge in executing this classic bridle joint where the leg joins the curved laminated rail. And how can you pull off a joint like that with tools, and especially the use of a router? You know, in the old days, they would mark it out by hand, saw cut, and pare to a line, knife line. But I want to show you how you can very accurately and confidently make a cut like that using a router. But before we get to the complex bridle joint, I want to show you just a simple, straightforward one, and then we'll jump into that. So this will be quick, but we're going to have to go over to the bandsaw to cut the notched part in the leg, and then we'll head to the table saw. So follow me. So here we are at the bandsaw, that long walk, and I've got this set up. I just want to show you how we would cut the notch for the leg to be the initial part of the joint, and then we'll cut the bridge that the notch fits over into the laminated rail. So I cut a reliable width notch using a spacer. This is a simple piece of, this happens to be oak, but it was dressed nice, right around 1/2 inch thick. And you can see it says it'll give you a 9/16 bridle joint. This is the spacer and the saw blade leaves about a 1/16 kerf cut. So the half plus the kerf gives us the 9/16. So here's how I would cut this. We'll make one cut without the spacer and one with, and I've already made the 3-inch depth line to show me where to stop. So here we go. All right, so you can see in that way, using a spacer, you can cut a consistent width slot for the leg. Now, I would finish this up. I've got a knife line there. If this were real, well, it is real, but I would use a sharp chisel and chisel to the line from both sides. And I would end up with a leg something like this. Now, this leg has been taken a little further, and I've sawn the profile for one of the shapes of this demi-lune table leg. It still has a lot of shaping to be done, but we'll use this leg to make our the other section of the bridle joint. And we're gonna make a very quick straight one right here on the table saw. So let me get my headphones. Now I've set up a very simple sled. This is my mini sled. Is that okay?
Better. Thanks.
Okay. And we've got a 1/2-inch dado stack in the table saw, and I moved the MDF on this mini sled, so I came up through it and I've got a 0 clearance, which is great because it gives you a very accurate visual of where the slot is cutting. But I'm not going to rely on that visual. I'm going to rely on this stop. So I'll be using just a piece of 7/8 cherry here. It's 3 inches wide, but this is just for a demonstration. And I'm going to go up to my stop and bump against it, and I'll make one pass. Now I want this leg, theoretically, to fit up into that bridle joint. And so I want the width of the slot to be just slightly wider. And for that, I've got a little spacer jig. This is 1 1/4 inch wide. So this 1 1/4 inch spacer will slip for the second cut up against the stop, and I'll come over, bump up tight. And what that'll do, it moves me over 1 1/4 inch, and then the other side of the dado is on the other side of the dado stack. So I add that 1/2 inch, and it gives me the 1 3/4 inches of my leg. So let's make the cut. What I'm gonna do is flip this over, and rather than raise the blade, I've got a couple spacers here that I'm gonna put underneath, which I think will get me the bridge of material that'll fit. Hopefully it'll be close, but this is, normally you would raise the blade if you were making a lot of pieces like this. But let's go. Flip. Okay, let's see how we made out. I've now got that bridge of material. The spacer set it just wide enough so that the leg will just fit in there. Look at that. I got lucky. And then on the front, same thing. So if that's the right width, we should be able to slip up in there and almost.
Crazy.
Hold it, I gotta pull it out. It's a little tight. So all I would have to do really here is scuff sand. I don't have any sandpaper, but I would scuff sand that surface, and then we would slip that up there and it would fit fine. So that's the standard way, just a simple, easy, straightforward bridle joint. It's a classic joint, especially if you want to support with a leg along a rail. But we're not into just plain, ordinary, straight joints. We want to get to the one that keeps you up at night, and that's the laminated curved rail. How do we use a similar like machine technique to get consistent, predictable results like this? Well, let me show you. I'm gonna come over here.
Okay.
So here's our laminated rail. And this is a cherry rail. This is actually the one I've been using in the class. And we've got 6 other rails that are all successful, believe it or not. We somehow make our way through. And this rail has these 2 center front legs that get the full bridle joint treatment right here. So this is a center line. This represents the center line of that mid leg. The corner legs get a floating tenon. Now this is over width because we're going to cut some swags into the lower side of this apron. So it'll come up to 3, drops down to 4, back up. But to cut the bridle joint, we want to do that before we've cut any shape. So we're still 4 inches wide here. But how are we going to hold this to cut the first side of the bridle joint? Well, here, we're not yet using the router. That comes in just a minute. And you'll see how we use that to get a really accurate bridge of material for our bridle joint. We're first going to cut the face dado across using a jig to hold it in position, because it's round. We can't just slap it flat on the table like we did that straight piece and bump it against the stop. There's no point of reference. So we're going to attach it to a point of reference. And that is this fancy looking piece of plywood. Okay, it's just a straight plywood piece. And the piece is set onto the plywood, which is registered hard, tight against a straight edge wall. So I'm able to center my line right on this spot where I want to cut the bridle joint, right here, and I'm forcing it up against the fence. So once I'm in that position, this little jig is so simple. It has these little toggle clamps that have been adjusted to hold pressure. Okay, and now I'm held into this jig. Now I can go to the same sled and I'm held so I can hold it exactly in position. But what about the right to left to get the accurate width of the leg into a slot in the face? Well, we're going to index the same way we did with that flat piece of stock, but off this jig. We've got a nice square end right here. So let's go back to our sled. Now I'm going to put it up in the same position, and my jig is acting as the straight line that it's sitting on. And look, we're going to go up against the stop for our first cut, and then we've got the same spacer. We'll shift over, and that should give us the same width cut right where we want it and right at a nice flat surface. So let me get my gear on again. Same process. Here we go. Get the dust collector on. All right, let's take it out of the jig. And there we have it. We have the front face, a nice flat for our leg to fit up into, but we've only got the front of the joint, so no problem. We're just gonna flip and cut that other side. This is where it gets tough, right? How are we going to cut the other surface, align it truly with the other lines, and have the back of our bridle joint in plane with the other surface? So we're going to take it back to the bench, and this is where the secret router technique comes in. So let's head back there. All right, we didn't even check our leg. Let's see if our leg fits. It should, if that spacer worked right. So we check out, we use the same spacer. I can press fit it in, a little squeaky, but I'm just going to sand the leg a touch. Let me get a...
Tom, Rick's asking a question around the jig. Why are the standoffs for the toggle on either side of the laminated rail?
Those are to hold it. Who was that, Rick? Mm-hmm. Good question, Rick. Those are to hold it in position so it doesn't shift on the jig, so I can use the spacer on the actual end of the rail and kick it over right and left. But also, because we're radius like this, if we rested it on the table, once you make the cuts, the rail wants to drop because you've cut away the center. So you get kind of like uneven cuts on the face. You'll have like one will be deeper than the other. So you need to support it with the toggles and also for reference an index off of your jig. So let me just hit the sides of this a little bit. See if we can get it to start to fit up in there. That should do it. Okay, that's doing well on the back here. Still a little bit tight. And I'll do a touch more on the face. If it was heavier, you could take a little shave with a plane, but with just that much, you can get it nicely close with by sanding it. So one thing I want to just verify before I go on is that surface is nicely in plane or square to the floor. So I'll just take a square, come down, bump it up there. That looks pretty good. And I'm going to just skim it just to make sure it's smoothish. Let's put it in the vise. Working with curves like this, sometimes it's a puzzle to hold them, but that was one of the things I learned when working with Pug down in North Carolina. He would spend a couple hours making something just to hold a piece, because half the time you can't really do good work if you're not holding the material well. All right, I've got a little bit of unevenness, so I'm just going to take this little shoulder plane and just skim that face so it's nice and even and equal. Okay, there we are. We're good on the face. Now we've got this flat face, and we want to make the back cut. Well, the first thing we need to do before we use the router is transfer those lines around the back. So I've got a block that is actually the same dimension as my leg. And if I could put it in there and attach these wings like this, these corners are square, and then bring it down and butt it flat against that face, those are giving me exactly what I need to get that line over on the back. I just need to take a straight knife, and we're going to cut here, and then we'll come over here. Whoops. I need to make a good jig to hold this. Okay. All right, now I could go on the other end if you want to verify, feel comfortable that you're square. Let's just do that just because we have it. But I'm going to actually square these lines across the inside using a square. So let's just come up like this.
You're not concerned that this is going to affect or tear apart the laminations that you've already made, that you feel confident about that, huh?
I am not concerned. Those laminations are super strong.
Yeah.
That bridge of material we're leaving is 9/16 thick, and the laminations, there's 10 laminations across there, sometimes 11 to get 7/8 in width, thickness. So here I am, I'm right in the knife cut there, I'm in the knife cut there, so that's reassuring. And then I'll just score that line. I'll make a couple. This is going to end up getting chiseled, so I'm just going to hit that. Let's, I want to swing it around so I can get this other side easier. I'll put that knife in the knife cut, bring up my square, and there we go. Okay, so I'm going to make a little pen line on there that I can route to. You may be saying, how in the world are you going to route to that? Well, I'll show you in just a second. Okay, about 1/16 away from the knife line will give me a good visual. And then I'll chisel to the knife line. So I want to get rid of this and leave myself the thickness correct for this bridle joint to fit on, for this leg to slide over, okay? So basically it'll fit the spacer we used to bandsaw out the slot on the leg. But how do we do this? And this is the puzzle. This is the one that really gets you. So where is our point of reference to cut a flat parallel surface with this front surface? Well, the only real point of reference is this front flat surface. So what we're going to do is attach a board. We've got a straight piece of material here. It's about 7/8 thick, and it fits up into that slot, okay? And now you look, it's not just the board fitting into the slot. It's got these two cross pieces mounted to it that are about 1 inch thick. And with this is a true, nicely trued board, so it'll fit up into that space and it mounts flat against that front face of the bridle joint. And now those two additional flat pieces of wood mount, and they bring that flat reference surface to the inside. So by those risen up like that, we can now ride the router base across those two pieces of wood. But we're going to have to modify the router just a little bit by putting a couple outriggers or longer rails or skis, whatever you want to call them, on the router. So first, let's attach this, and then I'll show you the router. All we have to do for this is, let's put it in the vise again. I've just got a couple screws that I attach this with, so it's very quick and easy. I'm gonna center it. I left some space there, so the router bit will ride nicely. And I've got my little drill. I'll go right there. What I love about this little jig is that it doesn't matter the shape. You could do this easily into a round apron, any kind of apron. Once you create that flat on the face, this type of jig will get you to the inside. Now, before I use this, I want to make sure these screws are good and tight and that I have really positive reference against that flat face. So now there I am, we're here, and now I'm going to put it into the vise. So I turn it on the inside, and these rails are getting me parallel with the face. So now I just need the router, and here it is. All I did, I just got a small router here. I just attached these two skis or rails. They're equal thickness, and I left a nice space between them so I could see the cut. These are going to ride on those blocks. So like skis here, it's nice and everything's in plane. But this plane is coplanar with the front. So all I have left to do is to set the depth. I need to set the depth stop so that what I end up with, that thickness is appropriate to the slot I cut earlier. So I did a couple test pieces, and I think we've arrived at a good one. Now, here I'll just be going to the pen line, and we'll chisel to that knife line once we're done. I'm gonna start in the middle, work my way out to each side. It's a little tricky to see. I gotta get a low view. I've gotta get my light. So let's get a light right here. Is this gonna mess you up? Can you see all right? How's that? Huh?
We'll see how it works. I don't know. Your job is more important right now.
Say that again.
It's always more important, huh?
No, it's not. Okay. Now we're going to, let's see, what else do I need? I think that's it. I got my gear. Our live studio audience is going to have to block their ears if they don't want to hear this screeching thing. And I got to get in the right position and make sure I plunge all the way. Here we go. I might hit the camera too. I'll get ready.
Go right ahead.
And here we go. Can't see. Sorry. All right. So there we have it, nicely cleaned out. You can see how nice and true and flush that is, and flat. Now I just need to, while it's still in this position, I've got my knife line. I just have to chop this perpendicularly. Just work my way across. If I went deep enough on that one. Yeah, I did.
Can you talk about the router bit that you were using to do that?
Oh, thanks. Yeah, that was a spiral upcut 1/4 inch router bit, like a carbide. You know, it's a little, not a super long one, but it needed to be out, you know, far enough for the added blocks that we put on there. Let's see, could turn this around. I'll just do it backwards. Not used to this, actually. I gotta stand over here.
If you've considered,
You can go over
where
there.
are you going?
You can go over there. I just have to work from this side. Just take me a second. What?
Did you consider adding stops to keep your skis from going too far right or left?
I like to live dangerous. No, these are plenty long enough. As long as I kept them perpendicular, I had extra material here. But if I was concerned about that, I would just add extra. I knew how wide this cut was. But that's always a good thought. Those are the kind of things you discover in the first version of your jigs. You know, you're like, whoops, I didn't think of that. I didn't think of that. In fact, we made a couple modifications of the process with the class using these, because this is the first time we've held this class. So I knew there were going to be some bumps in the road, you know, when you're doing it with a group, but they're actually very helpful to learn. And that's actually a micro example of the neighborhood, which you can join. We've got a great community, actually, that we learn a lot from each other.
We do have this as an online course, so you don't have to come here to do this.
Yeah, exactly. So, and
You can see that.
and there's a forum where people exchange ideas and successes, but yeah, the live courses and the opportunity to come to events here. We love meeting people and not just looking at the camera, which can get, you know, kind of lonely.
So Tom, how did you determine the depth of the plunge? Just
I made some test cuts, a series of test cuts on a sample piece. So, like, here's my board actually. So I made the cross cut on a piece of flat stock. It didn't matter. It didn't have to be round. I just made the same pass on the dado blade. Then I screwed the jig onto here and I routed this side. I just did it over width because I was just trying to get this dimension. So these two were my first, and this was the final correct thickness. So I was just slightly dialing it in. So it's just a matter of getting it adjusted. But what's amazing is we're able to go through all 6 students and myself, and it stayed perfectly on, and everybody got the same results. And we just got some shaping to do on the legs, and we'll be able to, cutting the swags, and we'll be able to see what we've got tomorrow. So I'm just going to pair, like make sure I've got all the material down in plane on the sides. But you can see that looks pretty clean. And that was just getting the width around to the back. So let's see if the back fits in there.
Now, Tom, James is asking if you were to do this with a router plane, would you need a jig to do that, or?
You'd have to block it up similarly. We actually had that same conversation here. You'd have to have some sort of blocking mechanism. So the router plane preceded the router, And so, but it's manual and you've got this blade sticking down. However, it'd be down pretty far. So just the leverage you have changes the further out that goes. You can imagine you're pulling, the further down that is, the less control you feel about it. So the manual method, just think of it as creating those planes on this side, and you could create it, but you're having to start with the point of reference, which is the front side, and you're just thinking about it in the shower, whatever. How am I going to build that out to get to the other side and have it be in plane? Now I'm just trying to, I'm feeling this. No, there I am.
Yeah, Lupe was saying you probably were up some sleepless nights. I said, yep, that did happen.
So I'm a little bit snug there still, not much, but I'm going to just sand it again because I'm so close. Usually I fit those a little, they end up coming out a little bit looser than the front. If that's not open enough, it's not going to go. So, okay, that feels like it should have a chance. Let's turn it up. Now this is not cut to the 3-inch dimension yet, but I need to pair up these little places where the screws went in. And we're going to flip it over. Let's see if the leg will fit on there. Okay, I feel it's fitting. Yay!
Nice.
Look at that. Thank you very much. Thank you. No. Wow.
For the applause.
Well, that's good. Something's wrong with the height, though. I don't know what's up with that. Well, actually, this is what we expect. What we end up doing is notching the bottom of the rail an inch up so that the top of this leg will become flush and in plane with the top, just like our other leg here. And you can see on this curly maple example, it's got some amazing curly on the front of this rail, beautiful down the leg. But these lines, you can see how they sweep up. They actually are where the bottom of the notch is. So we'll notch up and then the leg fits in, and those sweep up as if they're being cinched by this tie right there, right? That's what Timothy Philbrick said about us at the table that inspired this. I mean, he has a turned leg. This is a sawn leg. Just really loved that. So we've got our own interpretation here, and that is the method of the mind-bending bridle joint using a router. Are there any other questions?
Sufficiently.
Huh?
Sufficiently mind-bended.
Yeah.
No, I don't see any other questions. Oh, except Chris says, why doesn't he always seem so surprised? Why does he always seem so surprised when it actually fits?
I am, genuinely. Well, if you made as many mistakes as I did, you're always genuinely happy, surprised when things go well.
Yeah.
But thank you for saying that. And thank you all for tuning in. Hope if you enjoy this content, you'll consider subscribing. We love to have new people subscribing on YouTube. And also check out the website at epicwoodworking.com for all information on the courses and the neighborhood that we mentioned earlier. So if you check that out. And hey, thanks for hanging out, sitting on your sofa and watching for a while. We know most of you watch on TV, so we appreciate that too. And on behalf of the camera lady and myself and our live studio audience, we'll look forward to seeing you next time right back here on Shop Night Live.
All right.
Good night, everybody.
Thanks, everybody, for being here. We'll see you soon.
I don't think